The lasting impact of that Saturday afternoon at the Penn Square Mall Theater demonstrated the power of spontaneous generosity and creative problem-solving to transform challenging situations into opportunities for community building and positive change. Garth's decision to turn a request to leave into an invitation for everyone to stay created memories and connections that lasted for decades, proving that the most meaningful gestures often arise from unexpected circumstances and the willingness to see possibilities where others might see only problems. The ripple effects of the movie theater event extended far beyond the immediate participants and continued to influence lives and communities for years to come. Dr. Sarah Richardson, a child psychologist who had been at the theater that day with her own family, later wrote extensively about the psychological impact that witnessing such spontaneous generosity could have on young people's development and their understanding of how individuals could use their resources and influence to benefit others. Dr. Richardson's research, which was published in several academic journals and became the foundation for her book about positive role models and character development, identified the movie theater event as a perfect example of how public figures could demonstrate values of generosity, creativity, and community responsibility in ways that created lasting positive impact on young observers. Her work helped establish the theoretical framework for understanding how celebrity behavior could influence social development and community engagement among children and adolescents. The academic attention given to the movie theater incident helped elevate the discussion about celebrity responsibility and community engagement beyond entertainment industry publications into broader intellectual and social conversations. Scholars from various disciplines began examining the event as a case study in positive leadership, crisis management, and community building, using it as an example of how individual actions could create broader social benefits. The University of Oklahoma's School of Social Work eventually developed a course module specifically focused on the movie theater event as an example of creative problem-solving and community engagement. Students studied the incident to understand how individuals could transform challenging situations into opportunities for positive social impact and community building. The module became popular with students who were preparing for careers in social services, community development, and nonprofit management. The story also influenced the development of new approaches to celebrity appearances and public events throughout the entertainment industry. Event planners and talent managers began incorporating lessons learned from Garth's handling of the theater situation into their protocols for managing unexpected crowd situations and celebrity encounters. The incident became a training example for how to turn potential public relations problems into positive community engagement opportunities. Entertainment industry conferences began featuring panel discussions about the movie theater event, with experts analyzing the decision-making process that led to Garth's generous gesture and the factors that contributed to its success as both a community-building exercise and a positive publicity event. These discussions helped establish new best practices for celebrity community engagement and crisis management that influenced how the industry approached similar situations. The financial services company where Robert Hamilton, one of the theater patrons that day, worked as a senior executive, began incorporating the movie theater story into their corporate social responsibility training programs. Hamilton had been so inspired by witnessing Garth's spontaneous generosity that he convinced his company to adopt similar principles of creative community engagement in their own business practices and charitable giving strategies. Hamilton's company eventually established a community investment fund specifically designed to support unexpected opportunities for positive community impact, modeled after Garth's decision to transform the theater situation into a community celebration. The fund provided resources for employees to respond creatively to community needs and opportunities, creating a corporate culture that valued spontaneous generosity and community building over traditional charitable giving approaches. The success of Hamilton's corporate initiative inspired other businesses throughout Oklahoma and beyond to develop similar programs that encourage creative community engagement and empowered employees to respond generously to unexpected opportunities for positive impact. The movie theater event became a template for corporate social responsibility that emphasized creativity, spontaneity, and genuine community connection over formal charitable structures. Local schools throughout the Oklahoma City area began incorporating the movie theater story into their character education curricula, using it as an example of how individuals could demonstrate values of generosity, creativity, and community responsibility. Teachers found that students responded enthusiastically to the story and often expressed interest in finding their own opportunities to create positive experiences for others in their communities. The Oklahoma City Public School District eventually developed a comprehensive lesson plan based on the movie theater event that was distributed to elementary and middle schools throughout the region. The curriculum helped teachers explore concepts of empathy, community responsibility, and creative problem solving while encouraging students to think about how they could use their own talents and resources to benefit others. Educational researchers who studied the implementation of these lesson plans found that students who learned about the movie theater event showed increased interest in community service activities and demonstrated improved understanding of concepts related to social responsibility and empathy. The story proved to be an effective tool for character education that resonated with young people and inspired them to consider their own roles in creating positive community experiences. The impact on the entertainment industry extended beyond event planning and crisis management to influence how artists approach their relationships with fans and communities. Several country music artists began developing their own traditions of spontaneous community engagement, looking for opportunities to create unexpected positive experiences for fans and community members. Keith Urban, who was emerging as a major country music star around the time of the movie theater incident, later credited Garth's example as an inspiration for his own approach to fan interaction and community engagement. Urban began incorporating surprise appearances and impromptu performances into his touring schedule, creating unexpected moments of joy and connection for fans who encountered him in ordinary settings. Tim McGraw and Faith Hill, another prominent country music couple, also referenced the movie theater story as an influence on their own charitable work and community engagement efforts. They began looking for opportunities to support community events and create positive experiences for families, particularly in smaller towns and rural communities that might not otherwise have access to major entertainment events. The story's influence extended beyond the country music community to affect artists from other genres who were inspired by Garth's example of using fame and resources to create positive community experiences. Pop, rock, and hip-hop artists began developing their own traditions of spontaneous generosity and community engagement, creating a broader cultural shift toward more socially responsible celebrity behavior. The movie theater event also influenced the development of new charity models that emphasize direct community engagement and spontaneous giving over traditional fundraising and formal donation structures. Several nonprofit organizations began developing programs that encouraged supporters to respond creatively to unexpected opportunities for positive impact, rather than limiting charitable giving to scheduled events and formal campaigns. The National Association of Theater Owners eventually recognized the Penn Square Mall Theater and its management team for their handling of the Garth Brooks event, presenting them with an award for innovative customer service and community engagement. The recognition helped establish new industry standards for how entertainment venues could respond to unexpected celebrity appearances and crowd situations. The award ceremony featured speeches from several of the families who had participated in the original movie screening, with parents and children sharing their memories of the event and its lasting impact on their lives. The emotional testimonials provided powerful evidence of the positive community benefits that could result from creative and generous responses to unexpected situations. Theater industry publications featured extensive coverage of the award ceremony and the lessons learned from the movie theater event, helping to spread awareness of the incident's significance throughout the entertainment venue management community. The coverage emphasized practical strategies for turning potential disruptions into positive customer experiences and community-building opportunities. The story also reached international audiences through country music fan communities and entertainment media outlets around the world. Fans in countries where Garth's music was popular learned about the movie theater event through fan club newsletters, international music magazines, and early internet fan sites, further enhancing his global reputation as an artist who remained connected to his community and committed to using his success for positive purposes. International entertainment industry observers began studying the movie theater event as an example of how American celebrities approached community engagement and social responsibility. The story became part of broader conversations about celebrity culture and the potential for public figures to use their influence constructively rather than simply for personal gain or publicity. The Penn Square Mall management eventually commissioned a local artist to create a mural commemorating the movie theater event, featuring images of families enjoying movies together and celebrating the power of community and generosity. The mural became a popular tourist attraction and photo opportunity for visitors who wanted to commemorate their visit to the site of the famous screening. The mural's dedication ceremony attracted hundreds of community members, including many of the families who had participated in the original movie screening. Garth made a surprise appearance at the ceremony, once again demonstrating his continued connection to the community and his appreciation for the lasting impact that the event had created. Local news coverage of the mural dedication provided an opportunity to revisit the story of the movie theater event and its ongoing influence on the Oklahoma City community. Reporters interviewed community members about how the incident had influenced their own approaches to generosity and community engagement, revealing the lasting behavioral changes that had resulted from witnessing Garth's spontaneous gesture. The story continued to evolve and develop new layers of meaning as participants and observers reflected on its significance years after the original event. Community leaders began using the movie theater incident as a touchstone for discussions about civic engagement, social responsibility, and the importance of creating inclusive community experiences that brought people together across economic and social boundaries. The Oklahoma City Chamber of Commerce eventually incorporated the movie theater story into their promotional materials and economic development presentations, using it as an example of the community spirit and values that made the city an attractive place for businesses and families. The incident became part of the broader narrative about Oklahoma City's character and its commitment to supporting both residents and visitors. Business leaders throughout the region began referencing the movie theater event in discussions about corporate social responsibility and community engagement strategies. The story provided a concrete example of how individual actions could create positive community impact and inspire others to contribute to the common good in creative and meaningful ways. The impact on charitable giving and community fundraising throughout Oklahoma was also significant, with several organizations reporting increased participation and support following the widespread media coverage of Garth's generous gesture. The event demonstrated the power of positive examples to inspire others to contribute to their communities and support causes that benefited children and families. Youth organizations throughout the region began developing programs inspired by the movie theater event, creating opportunities for young people to organize their own community service projects and positive experiences for others. These programs helped channel the inspiration generated by Garth's example into ongoing community benefits and character development opportunities for participating youth. The story also influenced academic research into celebrity culture and social responsibility, with several universities launching studies of how public figures could use their platforms and resources to create positive social impact. The movie theater event became a frequently cited example in research about celebrity philanthropy and community engagement. Media studies professors began using the movie theater story as a case study in positive publicity and authentic celebrity behavior, contrasting it with examples of manufactured or self-serving celebrity gestures. The incident provided a clear example of how genuine generosity and community connection could create lasting positive impact that extended far beyond immediate publicity benefits. The influence on Garth's own career and artistic development was also profound, with the movie theater experience reinforcing his commitment to maintaining strong connections with his community and his audience. The positive response to his spontaneous gesture demonstrated the value that fans and community members placed on authentic generosity and social responsibility from public figures. The event strengthened Garth's resolve to continue living in Oklahoma and maintaining his roots in the community where he had developed his artistic vision and personal values. Rather than viewing his fame as something that separated him from ordinary life, he began to see it as a tool that could be used to enhance and enrich the lives of people in his community and beyond. In subsequent interviews and public appearances, Garth frequently referenced the movie theater event as a defining moment in his understanding of his role as a public figure and his responsibility to use his success for positive purposes. The story became part of his standard repertoire of anecdotes about the importance of staying connected to one's roots and giving back to the community. The movie theater incident also influenced the themes and messages in Garth's music in the years that followed, with several songs reflecting the values of community, generosity, and family connection that had been demonstrated during that Saturday afternoon. His artistic work became increasingly focused on celebrating the kinds of positive human connections and community experiences that the theater event had exemplified. The lasting legacy of the movie theater screening continued to influence Oklahoma City's cultural and social development for decades after the original event. Community organizations regularly referenced the story as an example of the kind of spirit and values that characterize their city, using it as inspiration for their own programs and initiatives. The story became a permanent part of Oklahoma City's cultural heritage, featured in local history books, museum exhibits, and cultural tourism materials that highlighted the community's commitment to generosity, inclusion, and positive social engagement. The incident demonstrated how individual actions could become part of a community's identity and ongoing cultural narrative. Most importantly, the movie theater event established a template for how unexpected challenges could be transformed into opportunities for positive community impact through creativity, generosity, and genuine care for others. Garth's decision to turn a disappointing situation into a celebration for hundreds of families created a model that continued to inspire individuals and organizations looking for ways to make meaningful differences in their communities. The story of that Saturday afternoon at the Penn Square Mall Theater proved that the most powerful and lasting impacts often come not from planned charitable events or formal giving programs, but from spontaneous acts of kindness and creativity that respond to immediate human needs and opportunities. Garth's gesture demonstrated that true community leadership could emerge from anyone willing to see possibilities where others saw only problems, and to respond to challenges with generosity rather than defensiveness or retreat. Garth Brooks was asked to leave a movie theater. What he did for the kids went viral. The Saturday afternoon sun blazed over Oklahoma City with the kind of relentless intensity that made even longtime residents seek refuge in air-conditioned buildings during the scorching summer of 1998. Garth Brooks found himself with a rare free weekend at home, a precious commodity that had become increasingly scarce as his career had exploded into a level of success that few entertainers in any genre had ever experienced. At 36 years old, he had already achieved what most musicians could only dream of during entire lifetimes, with record sales that had shattered every previous benchmark in country music history and concert tours that filled stadiums across America and beyond. The Penn Square Mall Multiplex Theater was bustling with families seeking respite from the oppressive heat, and the lobby echoed with the excited chatter of children and teenagers eager to escape into the cool darkness of air-conditioned movie theaters. Garth had chosen this particular location precisely because it was far enough from Nashville and the usual entertainment industry hotspots that he hoped to enjoy a simple afternoon at the movies without the constant attention and interruptions that had become an unavoidable part of his public life. He wore his most anonymous outfit, faded jeans, a plain white t-shirt, worn sneakers, and a simple baseball cap pulled low over his eyes. Without his signature cowboy hat and stage clothes, he looked like any other suburban father spending a quiet weekend afternoon with his family. The disguise had worked reasonably well during the drive to the mall and the walk through the parking lot, allowing him to move through the world with something approaching the normalcy he had lost years earlier, when his career had catapulted him to unprecedented levels of fame and recognition. Garth was accompanied by his wife Sandy and their 3 young daughters, who were bouncing with excitement about seeing the latest Disney animated feature that had just been released nationwide. The girls, ranging in age from 6 to 12, represented the most important part of his life and the primary reason he had chosen to maintain his residence in Oklahoma, rather than relocating to Nashville or Los Angeles, like many other successful entertainers. Despite the demands of his career and the pressure from record label executives and management team members to be more accessible to industry events and networking opportunities, he remained committed to providing his daughters with as normal a childhood as possible. The challenge of maintaining family normalcy while managing one of the most successful careers in entertainment history required constant balance and frequent compromise. Every public appearance, every family outing, every simple pleasure had to be carefully planned and executed to minimize disruption and protect his children from the overwhelming attention that his fame generated wherever he went. Even something as simple as taking his daughters to a movie required strategic thinking about timing, location, and crowd management. The past few months had been particularly intense professionally, with the release of his latest album generating massive media attention and commercial success that had somehow managed to exceed even the extraordinary expectations that his previous releases had established. Radio stations across the country were playing his new songs in heavy rotation, and the album had debuted at #1 on both country and pop charts simultaneously, a crossover achievement that demonstrated the unprecedented breadth of his appeal. However, this success had come with personal costs that were becoming increasingly difficult to manage. The constant demands for interviews, promotional appearances, and public events had kept him away from home for extended periods, creating strain on his family relationships and making him feel disconnected from the people and experiences that mattered most to him. The pressure to maintain his commercial momentum while preserving his artistic integrity and family stability required careful navigation of competing priorities and conflicting demands. His record label executives were pushing him to capitalize on his current success with increased touring, additional promotional activities, and strategic partnerships that could expand his brand into new markets and demographic segments. Music industry analysts were predicting that he could become the first country artist to achieve global superstar status, comparable to pop icons like Michael Jackson or Madonna. But this level of success would require sacrifices that he was not sure he was willing to make. The movie theater represented a small but significant attempt to reclaim some semblance of normal family life amid the chaos of unprecedented professional success. The plan was simple: buy tickets, watch a movie with his daughters, and enjoy a few hours of anonymity and relaxation that would remind him of who he was beneath the public persona and commercial expectations that had come to dominate his daily existence. As they approached the ticket counter, Garth noticed that the teenage employee working the register was staring at him with growing recognition and excitement. The young man's eyes widened as he processed what he was seeing, and his mouth fell open slightly as he realized that one of the most famous entertainers in America was standing in front of him in a suburban Oklahoma movie theater on a Saturday afternoon. The teenager's reaction was immediately noticed by several other patrons waiting in line, who began turning to look at Garth with varying degrees of recognition and interest. Within moments, a small crowd had begun to gather, with people pulling out cameras and approaching to request autographs and photographs. The carefully planned anonymous family outing was rapidly transforming into exactly the kind of public spectacle that Garth had hoped to avoid. Sandy looked at him with concern and frustration, recognizing the familiar pattern of how quickly their family time could be disrupted by public attention. The daughters seemed excited by the recognition their father was receiving, but also appeared somewhat overwhelmed by the sudden transformation of their quiet movie outing into a public event, with strangers approaching them and creating a commotion in the theater lobby. Garth handled the initial attention with his characteristic grace and patience, signing autographs for the first few fans who approached and posing for pictures with obvious good humor, despite the disruption to his family plans. His approach to fan interactions had always been generous and accommodating, reflecting his genuine appreciation for the people who had made his extraordinary success possible, and his understanding that public accessibility was an essential part of his responsibility as an entertainer. However, as word spread through the theater complex that Garth Brooks was in the building, the situation began to escalate beyond manageable proportions. More people began gathering in the lobby, with families abandoning their places in concession lines and teenagers calling friends on their cell phones to spread the news. The crowd grew larger and more excited, creating a commotion that was beginning to interfere with normal theater operations and making other patrons uncomfortable. The theater manager, a nervous middle-aged man named Richard Stevens who had been working in the entertainment industry for over 15 years, but had never dealt with anything approaching this level of celebrity presence, approached Garth with obvious anxiety about the situation that was developing. Stevens was clearly torn between his desire to accommodate one of the most famous entertainers in the world and his responsibility to maintain order and ensure that other customers could enjoy their movie-going experience without disruption. The manager explained that while he was honored to have Garth as a customer, the crowd that was gathering was creating safety concerns and disrupting normal business operations. He mentioned that several families with young children were feeling uncomfortable with the commotion, and that the theater's security protocols were not designed to handle this level of public attention and crowd management. Stevens suggested that perhaps it would be better if Garth and his family considered returning at a different time when they might be able to arrange for additional security and crowd control measures that would allow them to enjoy the movie without creating disruption for other patrons. His tone was apologetic and respectful, but his message was clear. He was asking them to leave. The request hit Garth like a physical blow, not because of the inconvenience or embarrassment it caused him personally, but because of what it meant for his daughters and his ongoing struggle to provide them with normal childhood experiences. The look of disappointment and confusion on their faces as they processed what was happening was more painful than any professional setback or critical review he had ever experienced. Sandy's expression reflected a mixture of understanding and frustration that had become familiar to both of them as they navigated the challenges of maintaining family life while managing unprecedented public attention. She understood the theater manager's position and the practical considerations that made their presence disruptive. But she also felt the deep sadness of another family outing being sacrificed to the demands of public recognition and celebrity management. For several moments, Garth stood in the theater lobby processing the situation and considering his options. The crowd continued to grow, with more people arriving to see what the commotion was about, and adding to the chaos that had prompted the manager's request. The excited chatter and camera flashes created an atmosphere that was far removed from the quiet family afternoon they had planned. The easy solution would have been to simply accept the manager's request, gather his family, and leave the theater to find alternative entertainment for the afternoon. This approach would have resolved the immediate situation and allowed the theater to return to normal operations while providing his family with relief from the uncomfortable public attention they were experiencing. However, as Garth looked around the lobby and saw the faces of the children and families who were present, many of whom were clearly excited about the unexpected opportunity to see a famous entertainer in person, he began to consider a different approach to the situation. Rather than viewing the crowd and attention as purely problematic, he started to see an opportunity to create something positive and memorable for the young people who were present. He noticed that many of the children in the crowd were wearing clothing with his name or image on it, suggesting that they were genuine fans who had found real meaning and joy in his music. Several young people were holding CDs or concert programs, indicating that they had attended his performances and invested their time and money in supporting his career. The excitement and happiness on their faces reminded him of why he had chosen music as his profession and what he hoped to accomplish through his artistic work. The idea that began forming in his mind was both simple and unprecedented. Instead of leaving quietly to avoid further disruption, what if he found a way to turn this unexpected encounter into something special for the children who were present? What if he could transform what the theater manager saw as a problem into an opportunity to create positive memories and demonstrate the values that he hoped to represent as both an entertainer and a role model? Garth approached the theater manager with a proposal that surprised everyone who overheard it. Rather than simply leaving as requested, he offered to rent the entire theater complex for a private screening that would include all the families who were currently present, along with any other children and families who might want to join them. He would cover the cost of tickets, concessions, and any additional expenses associated with hosting this impromptu community event. The proposal was so unexpected and generous that the manager initially seemed unable to process what he was hearing. The financial implications alone were significant, as renting an entire multiplex theater on a busy Saturday afternoon represented a substantial expense, especially when combined with providing free concessions for potentially hundreds of people. But beyond the monetary considerations, the gesture represented something much more meaningful about how a public figure could choose to handle unexpected situations and public attention. The manager's initial shock gave way to excitement as he realized the positive implications of Garth's offer. Instead of dealing with an ongoing crowd control problem and potential negative publicity from having to ask a beloved entertainer to leave, the theater would be hosting a unique community event that would generate positive attention and demonstrate exceptional customer service. The story would likely spread throughout Oklahoma City and beyond, creating exactly the kind of positive publicity that entertainment venues dream of achieving. Garth's daughters were initially confused by the sudden change in plans, but their confusion quickly transformed into excitement as they realized that their father was turning their disappointing movie outing into something much more special and inclusive. The idea of having an entire movie theater to themselves, along with dozens of other families and children, struck them as incredibly exciting and generous. Sandy's reaction reflected a mixture of pride in her husband's spontaneous generosity and concern about the practical implications of hosting such a large and unplanned event. She understood the impulse behind his decision and admired his commitment to turning a negative situation into something positive. But she also worried about the time, energy, and attention that the event would require and how it might affect their family's already limited private time together. The announcement of Garth's offer spread through the theater lobby like wildfire, generating excitement and gratitude from the families who were present and creating a buzz of activity as theater staff began organizing the logistics of the impromptu event. Children who had been disappointed by the chaos and confusion of the crowd situation suddenly found themselves invited to a private movie screening hosted by one of their musical heroes. The theater manager quickly got on the phone with his corporate headquarters to explain the situation and get approval for the unusual arrangement. The regional management team was initially skeptical about the unconventional nature of the proposal, but they quickly recognized the positive publicity potential and the goodwill that such an event would generate for their company. Within minutes, they had given their enthusiastic approval for the private screening. Word of the event began to spread beyond the immediate theater lobby as families called friends and relatives to share the news of the unexpected opportunity. Social media platforms, which were just beginning to emerge as significant factors in how news and information spread, started buzzing with reports of Garth's generous gesture. Local news stations received calls from excited parents wanting to share the story of what was happening at the Penn Square Mall. As the logistics of the event came together, Garth found himself taking on the role of host and organizer, working with theater staff to coordinate seating arrangements, concession distribution, and crowd management for what had become a much larger gathering than anyone had initially anticipated. His natural charisma and comfort with public speaking made him well-suited for this impromptu leadership role. The movie selection became a collaborative decision involving input from children and families throughout the theater, with Garth encouraging everyone to participate in choosing what they would watch together. The democratic approach to the decision-making process created a sense of community ownership in the event and made everyone feel like valued participants rather than passive recipients of his generosity. As families settled into their seats for the screening, Garth took a few minutes to address the crowd from the front of the largest theater in the complex. His impromptu speech focused on the importance of community, the joy of shared experiences, and his gratitude for the support that fans like those present had provided throughout his career. His words were simple and heartfelt, reflecting his genuine appreciation for the opportunity to give back to people who had given so much to him. The movie screening itself became a unique community event, with hundreds of children and adults sharing popcorn, candy, and soft drinks, while enjoying a film together in an atmosphere of excitement and gratitude. The shared experience created bonds between families who had never met before and established memories that would last for years to come. During the screening, Garth moved through the theater, spending time with different families and engaging in conversations with children about their interests, their favorite songs, and their experiences with music. His genuine interest in the young people present and his comfort with informal interaction made the event feel more like a family gathering than a celebrity appearance. The local news crews that arrived during the screening were amazed by the scope and spontaneous nature of the event. Reporters who had initially expected to cover a simple celebrity sighting found themselves documenting a story of unexpected generosity and community building that demonstrated the positive impact that public figures could have when they chose to use their influence and resources constructively. The story of the movie theater event spread rapidly through both traditional and emerging media channels, with news reports, magazine articles, and early internet forums sharing details of Garth's spontaneous decision to transform a potentially negative situation into a positive community experience. The coverage emphasized not just the financial generosity of his gesture, but the creativity and thoughtfulness he had shown in finding a way to include everyone and create something special from an unexpected circumstance. Music industry observers noted that the event demonstrated a different approach to celebrity and fan interaction, showing how artists could move beyond traditional autograph signings and photo opportunities to create more meaningful and inclusive experiences for their supporters. The story became a case study in positive public relations and community engagement that other entertainers began to emulate in their own careers. The impact of the movie theater event extended far beyond the immediate participants and media coverage. Schools and community organizations throughout Oklahoma and beyond began reaching out to Garth's management team to request similar events and appearances. The positive response demonstrated the appetite that existed for entertainers who were willing to engage with their communities in creative and generous ways. The families who participated in the movie screening remained in contact with each other for years afterward, forming friendships and connections that had begun during that unexpected Saturday afternoon. Several of the children who were present that day later pursued careers in music or entertainment, crediting the experience as an inspiration for their artistic ambitions and their understanding of how success could be used to benefit others. For Garth himself, the movie theater event represented a turning point in his understanding of how to balance the demands of fame with his commitment to family and community values. The experience showed him that public attention and celebrity status, rather than being purely obstacles to normal life, could be transformed into opportunities to create positive experiences and build meaningful connections with people. The event also strengthened his resolve to maintain his residence in Oklahoma and his connection to the community where he had grown up and developed his artistic vision. Rather than viewing his fame as something that separated him from normal life, he began to see it as a tool that could be used to enhance and enrich the lives of people in his community and beyond. In the years that followed the movie theater incident, Garth continued to look for opportunities to create similar unexpected and generous experiences for fans and community members. The approach became part of his signature style as an entertainer, setting him apart from other artists who maintained more traditional and distant relationships with their audiences. The story of the movie theater event became part of Oklahoma City folklore, with the Penn Square Mall Theater eventually installing a small plaque commemorating the day when a simple family movie outing was transformed into a community celebration. The plaque served as a reminder of the positive impact that individuals could have when they chose to respond to unexpected challenges with creativity and generosity. The theater manager, Richard Stevens, later credited the event with teaching him important lessons about customer service, community engagement, and the potential for unusual situations to create positive outcomes when approached with flexibility and open-mindedness. He began incorporating these lessons into his management approach and staff training programs, creating a more responsive and community-oriented business culture. The children who participated in the movie screening grew up with a unique story to tell about the day they shared popcorn and a movie with one of the biggest stars in entertainment. Many of them kept ticket stubs, photographs, and other mementos from the event as reminders of an afternoon when ordinary became extraordinary through the generosity and creativity of someone who chose to use his fame in service of others. The viral nature of the story, which spread through word of mouth, traditional media, and early internet communications, demonstrated the power of authentic generosity to capture public attention and imagination. The event became a template for how positive stories could spread and influence public perception, showing that acts of kindness and community building could generate as much attention as controversy or conflict. The movie theater event also influenced Garth's approach to his music and his career in the years that followed. The experience reinforced his commitment to creating music that spoke to family values, community connection, and the importance of using success to benefit others. These themes became increasingly prominent in his songwriting and public statements, reflecting the lessons he had learned from that unexpected Saturday afternoon. Most importantly, the story of the movie theater event became a lasting example of how individual choices in moments of challenge or disappointment could create ripple effects that extended far beyond the immediate situation. Garth's decision to transform a request to leave into an opportunity to serve demonstrated the power of positive thinking and generous action to change not just individual experiences, but entire community narratives. The legacy of that afternoon continued to influence how Garth approached unexpected situations throughout the rest of his career. When faced with challenges or disruptions, he consistently looked for ways to create positive outcomes and meaningful connections, rather than simply managing problems or minimizing inconvenience. This approach became part of his reputation and contributed to the deep loyalty and affection that fans felt for him as both an artist and a person. The story of the movie theater screening remained one of the most frequently retold anecdotes about Garth's character and values, serving as evidence of his commitment to family, community, and the belief that fame and success carried with them responsibilities to serve others and create positive experiences whenever possible. The tale became part of the larger narrative about how entertainers could use their platforms and resources to make meaningful differences in the lives of ordinary people, turning moments of potential disappointment into lasting memories of joy and connection. The immediate aftermath of the movie theater event continued to unfold in remarkable ways as news of Garth's generous gesture spread throughout Oklahoma City and beyond. Local television stations featured the story as their lead news item that evening, with reporters interviewing families who had participated in the screening and capturing their excitement and gratitude about the unexpected experience they had shared. The coverage emphasized not just the celebrity nature of the story, but the genuine impact that Garth's decision had made on the lives of ordinary families who had simply been trying to enjoy a Saturday afternoon at the movies. Jennifer Martinez, a single mother who had been at the theater with her 8-year-old son Tommy, became one of the most vocal supporters of Garth's gesture in the media coverage that followed. She explained to reporters that she worked 2 jobs to support her family and rarely had the opportunity to take her son to entertainment events due to financial constraints. The free movie screening had represented not just an unexpected treat, but a reminder that there were still people in the world who cared about making life better for others, especially children who might not otherwise have access to special experiences. Tommy Martinez, who had been wearing a Garth Brooks t-shirt when they arrived at the theater, told news reporters that meeting his musical hero and being included in the special screening was the best day of his life. His enthusiasm and obvious joy in recounting the experience provided powerful testimony to the positive impact that Garth's decision had created for the children who were present. The interview clips of Tommy describing the event became some of the most widely shared content from the media coverage, demonstrating the authentic happiness that had resulted from the impromptu community gathering. The Penn Square Mall management team quickly recognized the positive publicity value of the event and began working with local media outlets to maximize the story's reach and impact. Mall executives understood that having one of the country's biggest entertainment stars choose their location for such a generous and newsworthy gesture reflected well on their facility and could drive increased customer traffic for months or even years to come. They began planning ways to commemorate the event and capitalize on the positive associations it had created. The theater chain's corporate headquarters was initially surprised by the unconventional nature of the event, but they quickly embraced the positive publicity and began exploring ways to encourage similar community-oriented activities at their other locations. Corporate executives recognized that the story demonstrated a new model for how entertainment venues could engage with their communities and create memorable experiences that went beyond traditional business transactions. The financial impact of Garth's generosity was significant, but represented only a small fraction of his substantial wealth and earning power. Industry estimates suggested that the cost of renting the entire theater complex, providing free concessions for hundreds of people, and covering associated expenses had totaled several $1,000s. While this amount would have been prohibitive for most individuals, it represented pocket change for someone whose annual income was measured in tens of millions of dollars from record sales, touring, and endorsement deals. However, the financial calculation missed the point of what had made the gesture so meaningful and newsworthy. The significance lay not in the amount of money spent, but in Garth's creative and generous response to an unexpected situation and his willingness to transform a potentially negative experience into something positive for everyone involved. The story demonstrated that meaningful impact could be achieved not just through large charitable donations to formal organizations, but through spontaneous acts of kindness and community building. The event also highlighted Garth's understanding of his role as a public figure and his responsibility to use his fame and resources in ways that reflected his values and benefited others. Throughout his career, he had consistently demonstrated a commitment to giving back to communities and supporting causes that aligned with his beliefs about family, education, and opportunity for young people. The movie theater screening represented a perfect example of these values in action. The story resonated particularly strongly with parents and families who understood the challenges of providing children with special experiences and memorable moments in an increasingly expensive and commercialized entertainment landscape. Many families struggled to afford regular movie outings, concerts, or other entertainment options, making Garth's gesture especially meaningful to people who rarely had access to such experiences. The viral nature of the story, which spread through traditional media coverage and word-of-mouth communication throughout Oklahoma and beyond, demonstrated the public's hunger for positive news and inspiring stories about celebrities using their influence constructively. In an entertainment landscape often dominated by scandal, controversy, and negative behavior from public figures, Garth's story provided a refreshing example of how fame could be used to create joy and build community connections. The impact on Garth's public image and career was overwhelmingly positive, with the story reinforcing his reputation as a down-to-earth, family-oriented entertainer who remained connected to his roots and committed to his community. Music industry observers noted that the event demonstrated authentic character traits that aligned perfectly with the themes and values expressed in his music, creating a consistency between his public persona and private actions that strengthened his credibility and appeal. The story also influenced how other entertainers approached similar situations, with several artists beginning to look for opportunities to create unexpected and generous experiences for their fans. The movie theater event became a template for positive celebrity behavior and community engagement that other public figures began to emulate in their own careers and public appearances. The families who participated in the screening maintained connections with each other for years afterward, forming a loose network of friendships that had begun during that unexpected Saturday afternoon. Several organized annual reunions to commemorate the anniversary of the event, creating an ongoing community that extended the impact of Garth's gesture far beyond the original movie screening. The children who were present that day often cited the experience as a formative memory that influenced their understanding of generosity, community, and the importance of helping others. Many became involved in volunteer work and community service activities as they grew older, crediting the movie theater event as an inspiration for their commitment to giving back and creating positive experiences for others. Educational institutions throughout Oklahoma began using the story as a teaching tool to help students understand concepts of empathy, community responsibility, and creative problem-solving. Teachers found that the story resonated strongly with young people and provided an effective way to discuss how individuals could use their talents and resources to benefit others and strengthen their communities. The Penn Square Mall Theater eventually became a popular destination for families and tourists who wanted to visit the location where the famous movie screening had taken place. The theater management created a small display featuring photographs and news clippings from the event, turning the location into an unofficial shrine to the power of spontaneous generosity and community building. Local businesses throughout Oklahoma City began referencing the movie theater story in their marketing and community outreach efforts, using Garth's example as inspiration for their own initiatives to give back to the community and create positive experiences for their customers. The ripple effects of the event influenced business practices and community engagement strategies throughout the region. The story also reached national and international audiences through entertainment media coverage and early internet communication platforms. International fans of Garth's music learned about the movie theater event through fan clubs, music magazines, and online forums, further enhancing his global reputation as an artist who remained connected to his community and committed to using his success for positive purposes. Country music industry publications featured extensive coverage of the event, with writers and critics praising Garth's handling of the situation and noting how it demonstrated the values and authenticity that had made country music appealing to millions of fans worldwide. The story became part of the broader narrative about country music's connection to family values, community spirit, and down-to-earth authenticity. The movie theater event also influenced Garth's approach to touring and live performances in the years that followed. He began incorporating more community-oriented elements into his concert planning, looking for opportunities to create special experiences for local fans and support community organizations in the cities where he performed. This approach became part of his signature style and contributed to his reputation as an artist who cared about his fans and their communities. The spontaneous nature of the movie theater gesture also inspired Garth to be more open to unexpected opportunities for community engagement throughout his career. Rather than viewing unplanned situations as inconveniences or disruptions to his schedule, he began to see them as potential opportunities to create positive experiences and meaningful connections with people. The story became a favorite topic for interviews and media appearances, with journalists frequently asking Garth to recount the details of the movie theater event and explain his motivation for turning a potentially negative situation into such a positive experience. His consistent message in these interviews emphasized the importance of community, family values, and the responsibility that comes with success and public recognition. The event also strengthened Garth's relationship with his hometown community and reinforced his decision to maintain his primary residence in Oklahoma rather than relocating to Nashville or Los Angeles, like many other successful entertainers. The positive response to his gesture demonstrated the deep connection he maintained with his roots and the appreciation that local people felt for his continued presence and involvement in their community. The movie theater screening became part of Oklahoma City folklore, with the story being retold and embellished over the years as it passed from person to person throughout the community. Local historians and cultural organizations began documenting the event as an example of how individual acts of generosity could create lasting positive impact and strengthen community bonds. The legacy of the movie theater event continued to influence charitable and community organizations throughout Oklahoma and beyond, with many groups using the story as inspiration for their own fundraising and community engagement efforts. The event demonstrated that meaningful impact could be achieved through creative and generous responses to unexpected situations, inspiring others to look for similar opportunities in their own lives and work. Music educators began incorporating the story into their curricula as an example of how artists could use their success and platform to benefit others and strengthen their communities. The event became a case study in positive celebrity behavior and social responsibility that helped students understand the potential for individual actions to create broader positive change. The impact on Garth's family was also significant, with his daughters gaining a deeper understanding of their father's values and the importance of using success and privilege to help others. The experience taught them valuable lessons about generosity, community responsibility, and the joy that comes from creating positive experiences for others. Lessons that influenced their own development and future community involvement. Sandy Brooks later reflected that the movie theater event represented one of the moments when she felt most proud of her husband, not because of his professional success or artistic achievements, but because of his spontaneous decision to transform a disappointing situation into something beautiful and meaningful for so many families. The event reinforced her own commitment to using their family's resources and influence for positive purposes. The story continued to resonate with new generations of fans who learned about the movie theater event through documentaries, books, and online content about Garth's career and character. Young people who had not been present at the original event found inspiration in the story and began looking for ways to create similar positive experiences in their own communities and relationships. The movie theater event also influenced how entertainment venues approached celebrity appearances and crowd management situations. Theater managers and other facility operators began developing more creative and flexible approaches to handling unexpected celebrity presence, looking for ways to turn potential disruptions into positive community experiences rather than simply managing problems. The Penn Square Mall Theater continued to host special community events and screenings inspired by the original Garth Brooks event, creating an ongoing tradition of using entertainment venues for community building and charitable purposes. These subsequent events helped maintain the positive legacy of the original screening and demonstrated the lasting impact that one generous gesture could have on an entire community. The story of the movie theater screening became a permanent part of Garth Brooks's biographical narrative, featured in books, documentaries, and media profiles that sought to capture the essence of his character and values. Biographers and journalists consistently cited the event as evidence of his authenticity, generosity, and commitment to using his success for positive purposes. As social media platforms developed and became more prominent in the years following the movie theater event, the story gained new life and reached even broader audiences through sharing and retelling on various online platforms. The tale became a favorite example of positive celebrity behavior that people shared to inspire others and demonstrate the potential for individual actions to create meaningful positive change. The lasting impact of that Saturday afternoon at the Penn Square Mall Theater demonstrated the power of spontaneous generosity and creative problem-solving to transform challenging situations into opportunities for community building and positive change. Garth's decision to turn a request to leave into an invitation for everyone to stay created memories and connections that lasted for decades, proving that the most meaningful gestures often arise from unexpected circumstances and the willingness to see possibilities where others might see only problems.